Good morning, everyone, and welcome to CI Events Business as Unusual webcast, episode 3. Today, we're focused on the voice of the customer, hearing directly from Australian organisations about how they're weathering the COVID-19 crisis and what steps they're taking now to start planning for the future, despite the fact that that's still quite uncertain. I'm Rosa Yo, and I'm a strategist and facilitator. So I manage a lot of conversations about the future. And there's never been a better time to have these conversations and to take the time to think about how we plan and how we map forward in this new world. So I'm delighted to be here with Nat Simmons, who's the Global General Manager of CI Events. Nat has been with CI for 20 years. So she's mapped the growth of CI from a small Australian team into the global footprint it has today. I'm also delighted to welcome Penny Lyon, the Executive General Manager Events at Tourism Australia. Now, I know all of us have had our business lives thrown into chaos over the last few weeks, but the tourism industry and tourism events have been in this maelstrom since the bushfires began in January. So it's great to have Penny here to share how her organisation is working with the wider industry on managing through this crisis. And Andrew Russell, welcome Andrew. He's the CEO of Class Limited. They're a publicly listed company on the ASX Technology Index, and they're a real Australian fintech success story, providing cloud-based computing solutions, software solutions for self-managed super and other accounting needs. So welcome to you all. And a big welcome to you, our webcast audience today. You're a very diverse group this morning. We've got lots of people from the events and the travel and tourism industry, but we also have people from the finance sector, pharmaceuticals, education, non-profits, government agencies, a huge range of people ranging from roles in creative, sales, CEO, and of course, some of you are in hibernation too from your roles, but staying in very close contact with the industry. So welcome to you all. Please remember to log in so that you can join the live chat as part of this session as well. We'd love to hear from you. Okay, let's get cracking. I'd love to introduce the panel and ask you, first up, almost everything has changed in the way we work and in the way we live our lives over the last few weeks. But I'd love to know what's been one change for you, either in your business life or personal life, that surprisingly has been a positive. Penny, how about you?
Well, I think not just my fellow panel members, but everybody probably listening in, avoiding the commute to work each day has been absolutely fantastic. Our dog is loving having us around all of the time. So that's a positive on the personal front. But from a business point of view, I think, distance does give perspective, and I mean that in a positive way because, being away from the business does give you a bit more of a chance to think about things in a different way. So for me, it's probably that's been a positive out of this current crisis.
And Andrew, what about you?
Well, just getting ready to go to work. Not that I spend a lot of time doing my hair in the morning, but I'm certainly enjoying that I don't have to iron my clothes or dry clean my shirts, and also the fashion judging is just not the same now. I can put on anything on the top, and no one knows what pants I'm wearing. That's great.
That helps. Yeah, you ironed your t-shirt though, didn't you, before the session this morning?
Not telling.
Nat, what about you?
I think for me on the work front, it's definitely been, for somebody who can travel up to 5 months of the year, just being grounded, so to speak, it's really allowed me to, slow down a little bit, stop and really think a little bit differently and get back into some of the grassroots areas of our business that unfortunately I don't always get a chance to do when it's sort of business as usual pre-COVID. So that's definitely, I think, been really a positive, and it's been really insightful, some of the great things that we are doing, obviously, and some of the opportunities that we have for change during this COVID period. So that's really allowed me to do that, which has been fantastic. And I think on a personal note, I actually remembered that I do love to cook. So I've been cooking 3 home-cooked meals every day, which is, for me, has been really a nice outlet.
See, it's interesting. I love to order around my children and ask them to do things. And it's so much easier to get them to do that when they're all stuck at home. So they can't do the whole, I can't do the washing, I've got to go out. Awesome. My little workforce. Andrew, look, speaking of your workforce and how you operate your business, we're going to get to strategy in a minute, but particularly just thinking about, when it comes to business as usual in this environment, what's been the biggest challenge for you sort of managing through this season, and what unusual approaches have you had to take to respond to it?
Well, Class Limited made its first acquisition of Now Infinity in February, which was just prior to the crisis really kicking off. So in our integration planning, we probably hadn't thought down to the level of disruption that we had, because if you think from a people perspective, there's 30 people approximately in that business located on the Gold Coast, and then there's 15 people located in Europe as well. So first part is onboarding them and getting used to the new Class team. So it's really having a strong integration plan and very strong leaders, and we've been lucky to have that on both sides. So one, they can get introduced to the new processes that exist at Class, but also get to know us at an individual level. So it's been a very strong use of technology, and probably overemphasizing in terms of communication.
Okay. And Nat, how are you unusually communicating with your customers other than, hello webcast?
I think this is actually given us an opportunity to have a lot of conversations that we probably didn't have, the time for, and people were really getting about doing their day-to-day business. But now that, there is a little bit more space in the day, and people are perhaps, things such as commuting and traveling are not on the table anymore, we're having some really interesting conversations with our customers about really the why of their events. And, when we're reimagining what the world will look like and what their events will look like, we've been able to reconnect with a lot of customers on a much deeper level. And I think, before, when it was really hard to get a meeting into the diary for, an hour in 4 weeks' time, all of a sudden, a phone call that would usually be a 5-10 minute phone call can now be a really good in-depth 45-minute conversation. And I think it's really allowing for relationships to be re-cemented and rebuilt on a very personal level, and I think on a very transparent level, because we're all in it together, right? And so we all have to come out the other side together. And I think people are really streaming into that. They're really wanting to join that conversation, because no one knows what the outcome will be and when the outcome will be, kind of realised.
And Penny, relationships are also a big part of your work, whether it's, communicating with your team, who I know is spread around the world normally. How are you managing now this world where you're communicating with all your stakeholders on your team permanently virtually?
Well, exactly the same as everyone, but I really agree with what Nat just said. So if you usually ring somebody on the mobile on the fly, and it's a 5-minute chat as you're racing down the street, there's a bit more structure to it and a bit more focus. I mean, I'm finding at the end of each day, I'm tired like I haven't been before, because you're concentrating much more on each conversation that you're actually having. And, we're probably communicating even more than we have before. So our team meets daily just to really, connect and stay focused on what's happening. So yes, albeit that we've always connected virtually with our colleagues overseas, the Sydney office is used to corridor chats and all the rest of it. So yes, it's like everyone, it's just the way that it is at the moment. But I'm also really impressed, because we have a really broad range of people across our business, our industry, different ages and stages of life, but everyone just, absolutely adjusts. And I think that's, for the most, of course, I'm dealing with tourism and events people, says a lot about, the integrity of the people, and just how quick, most people in the industry are. They just get used to it. And so it is the way forward, and it is what it is, and we're doing it.
Now, one of last century's great futurists, Alvin Toffler, he said that the illiterate of the 21st century were not going to be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. And, if we've learned nothing else over the last few weeks, it's that we have to be so quick to adapt and pivot and think differently about things. And I think, Penny, Tourism Australia, you went from managing an extraordinary crisis during summer when the bushfires happened, and you had to suddenly wheel out massive information campaigns to make sure the messages were clear about where was open, where was not. Then you had to transition with the coronavirus into, you know, holiday here, event here this year. Then all of a sudden, no one was allowed holiday anywhere or event anywhere. So again, there's been this massive shift. You know, what has made it possible for your organisation and working with the industry to just keep pivoting and somersaulting almost during this time?
Yeah. I was saying earlier, you know, it really feels like the last few months has really happened over years. It's just, some ways it just feels like it's been going on for a long time. But when you think about the short space of time that everything you've just said has happened in, it's quite unbelievable. Look, people are critical in all of this. So you really do need people who are committed and obviously pragmatic, but also smart with how we actually need to do those step changes, that everything was, you know, being thrown our way, you know, and every business is exactly the same. You've just got to, you have to adapt, you have to be agile, etc. But I think for Tourism Australia, I've always been proud of the fact it's been a commercial operation, because my background has been commercial and I love that kind of fast pace. But the difference is that, you know, we are a government agency and we get, you know, we plan every year about what it is that we're going to do. And then we stick to that plan. We deliver on the projects that we've set out to do and so on. So it's quite a structured way forward each year. Whereas, you know, we certainly have had to adjust that very quickly and be far more commercial than we've ever been before. And that, again, goes back to, like I said, people and people meeting regularly, communicating very strongly about what needs to be done, and then sticking to it, but just being open-minded that what might be today is not going to be tomorrow. So that for us has been the way that we're operating, and really proud to see what the team have been doing, particularly our managing director and the way she's been communicating to industry, because that's an incredibly important part of what we do.
And Andrew, I mean, your software's all cloud-based, right? It's digital, perfect, no worries. But presumably you've also had to change the way you work and adapt to the way you're dealing with your, you know, your customers as well as your team in the office. How have you been coping with that, and where have you had to switch?
Well, from a team perspective, it's really has to start at the top. There's a lot of negative news going around, so we've had a very strong communication strategy. The CEO has I start a video every day effectively, and it's just talking about what's been in the latest news, what's been happening across the business that I've seen from attending Zoom meetings, but also making some light commentary as well, and having snippets of filming people in my life, my family, my niece and nephew, my physical trainers, to get an insight into what is working from home from a CEO's perspective. And we have a Slack channel where they can ask me anything during the day, and it's a range of content from serious things relative to, you know, my favorite movie. We also have a change in the way that we collaborate, which has been really positive, because, you know, you're working in a multi-story building, so you probably can't engage in the teams, or you just don't as well. But now you can just drop into to the Zoom stand-ups, some to say hi, others just to surprise, and that's been really useful as well. And particularly for customers, they're still busy. They're trying to work out what's happening with their businesses and their customers. So engaging from the sales team via Zoom meetings has the regularity of those has really increased, which has been great.
And Nat, for you, I mean, one of the biggest shift has to be that without being able to do face-to-face meetings and events, you know, you guys are having to absolutely reimagine what content looks like for your customers. How have you gone about that?
Yeah, look, absolutely. I think for us, you know, the events industry was hit early. It was hit much earlier than corporate travel and tourism was hit. So we already started to reimagine, you know, what events would look like. And at that point, you know, it was first, okay, well, we probably won't be able to meet for 3 months in the same way, or, you know, small meetings and events are still able to go ahead. Then there was, no events for over 1,000 people, then no events over 500 people, then you and one other person, social distancing. So it shifted really, really quickly. And, you know, at that point when it all first started, we were still rebooking events for September and October. Now, obviously, it's about really thinking completely differently, because, you know, with kind of early advice indicating that potentially our international borders won't open till December, January, you know, this notion of meeting at home and, you know, really thinking some of those international events going domestic. And we will be using the hashtag event here. But, you know, I think for us, it's really, you know, or I believe that where you would usually have a meeting for 100 people and you would book a ballroom that fits 100 people for your meeting, you know, the future, I think, is going to look more like you have a meeting for 100 people, you book a room that holds 500 people, because social distancing will continue to be at the forefront of our society, I think, for the, you know, midterm at least. And you know, but what I do think is that it's giving us, and from conversations with customers, it's giving us a really unique opportunity, because I always feel that, you know, you go to an event and there's that euphoria after the event, people get this adrenaline rush. And, you know, for 2 or 3 weeks afterwards, people are still kind of, you know, retelling the stories. And wasn't that a great night? And that piece of content was absolutely amazing. But then after, you know, 4 or 5 weeks, people go back, most people go back to BAU, and kind of that euphoria is really left behind. Whereas now we're talking about long-term content pieces. So we're talking about 3-4 months worth of strategic content, and really going back to, why are we holding this event in the first place? What are we trying to communicate to our customers? What is our strategy? You know, and as Penn just said, they have a year-long plan. So taking that plan and thinking, well, how do we communicate over multiple times throughout the year through multiple channels, you know, and it's that kind of hybrid of, you know, a Zoom meeting like this, going into breakout rooms online, doing your own pre-work, video content, presentations back. There is a multitude of things that we're doing. But I think what's a real positive is that we can see that, you know, as we refer to it, the halo effect of the event actually being stretched out to 4 to 6 months and driving much more ROI, you know, and when the marketing teams that we work with on such a regular basis are really trying to drive engagement on a continuous basis, I think that content is going to give us opportunities actually, which are a real positive in the long term.
I agree, Nat. I think it's really good thinking. I think that connection and engagement is really important. And if anything, out of this crisis, we've all realised that we need more of it.
Yeah, thanks.
And I think that just the nature of the crisis, we're getting a great platform to test and learn, to see what things actually work and resonate, whether it's internally with your staff, whether it's externally with your customers, and that'll help build and shape the different, whether it's big con events or just you know, some fun events, such as we just recently, you know, sent out Christmas Easter presents to all staff to have make Easter buns, and you know, competitions have started as a result of that.
So I guess as well as you know, having that opportunity to go longer and broader and deeper into what the ultimate objectives are, then it sounds like too there might also be the possibility for people to kind of be given the permission to be a bit braver in the way they trial things. You know, maybe we are going to be a bit more forgiving of people trying new things, trying new approaches and testing it out and seeing what works. Nat, what do you?
Yeah, I definitely think that now is the time to be brave. I think it's the time to be brave in our own businesses, and we're going through our own reimagining phase at the moment of, you know, what could our business look like if, you know, we have a bit of a rethink, and knowing that the world is going to be different. I think now is not the time to be conservative because we know that the world has changed forever. Of course, some things will go back to normal, but ultimately, I think as humans, you know, we will look at the world very differently. And I think that because we're all in it together and this real sense of unity, I do think that there is more forgiveness around trialing things, because we all want to come out the other side and we want to come out stronger, you know, but we all want to come out the other side essentially. So I definitely think it is an amazing opportunity if we can harness it. And I think for me, in the industry that I work in, and obviously it's, you know, Penny's industry, if we can harness it together, I think that we can achieve some amazing things for tourism and business events in this country.
And Andrew, what about for you? I mean, looking at it from your perspective, what steps have you been able to take now to start thinking through your long-term competitive position? And, you know, how are you planning for a future beyond this sort of immediate time we're in?
Well, I think that this crisis has allowed us to really think innovatively, and we know that technology just in the processes right across the world really has moved quite a number of years, and it's made either businesses catch up or push their businesses forward into the new world, which I think is just going to be the positive in the way that we all engage. from a people perspective, we've already started the process of what the world looks like when in next year. So we know that from all the stand-ups and engagement with both customers and my staff, that they like working from home. So this is going to be the new norm. Everyone's getting used to it now. We've pushed through the BCP constraints, and the trust has been built from a leadership perspective that productivity has maintained. So we'll be restructuring our business. We won't be going to bigger offices. We'll just be creating different floors to allow those that are coming in to collaborate in a better and a smarter way to drive a great culture, and then create floors that for those that want to book a desk can come in and work, and those that are lastminute.com like I am, that there will be space for them if they choose to come into the office. So the way that we engage at the staff level will be definitely changed, but it will be more productive. And then the way that we engage our customers, we know that they've always been busy from a sales perspective, but to be able to reach regional areas or states that are distanced from Sydney using the technology we know that everybody's familiar with, the sales process will certainly change, and it'll be more productive for us and better and more productive for our customers as well.
Okay. And does that help you plan? Do you feel now you're already able to start planning for a future that's a bit more long term? You talk about talking through next year. Do you think there is that appetite within, say, the finance industry that they can start seeing beyond this immediate period?
Well, I think there's going to be some pretty very positive changes in the finance industry, because some of the risk components of signing documents remotely, with using technology, we've pushed through from that. So I see that that is going to be a real big change. I think that there's still, obviously it's very dynamic, so it's still short-term focused, but businesses are looking forward now, and that's businesses like us. We've got our product roadmap for delivery, and we're pushing ahead with that, and we see that being in market next year. And operations, although it'll be a new world, we certainly see businesses starting to engage back in a more normal way.
Now, Penny, I know there's lots of people on the webcast today from the tourism and events industry wanting a very clear answer on what does the future look like? What are we planning for? What does travel look like, over the next 6 to 12 months? Where is that? Who's got that crystal ball? Is anybody able to answer that question, or are we all still working through the process?
Look, unfortunately, it's the latter. It's working through the process, and our managing director Philippa Harrison has very regular contact with both Minister Birmingham and the Prime Minister, and we have no answer at the moment. So for us, it's all about looking at a phased approach, and I'd really suggest that everybody works to a similar model if you're not already doing so. I mean, for us, it will definitely, be domestic borders opening, and looking at how we can actually leverage and help support the critical industry that is tourism and business events. And so we'll work to that as a stage one, with a stage two, of course, when we can, with the international borders reopening. But there's so much work to be done. There's the fact that we need airlines flying in. We are an island nation after all, for that to happen. And we are actually working on a really great model at the moment about, it's a simple model of what we're calling the Green Light Project, because we need to have our borders open and airline access and the infrastructure and supply side of tourism working effectively to be able to promote it effectively overseas. Mm-hmm. At the same time, there's, our key customers overseas, whether that's in, leisure tourism, working holiday makers, business events, whatever, who are thinking and dreaming at the moment, as we all are in hibernation, dreaming of our next holiday, planning our next business event, whatever it might be. And so we have, work to do there. So we absolutely have to stay focused on that for when borders do reopen and business can return to what we're calling the new normal. But I wish for the audience that I had some insider knowledge, but unfortunately we don't. So, just stay focused on the short term with an eye on the long term. That's my advice.
Look, we had a question from David in the audience about speaking particularly from the concept of customers, the perspective of customers, and I might throw this one to you, Andrew, to kick off. How's the new world that we're living in right now, how's that reshaping customers' attitudes and particularly their value drivers? What are they looking for from their service providers at the moment? Do you see any shifts?
Well, right now it ranges. Some people obviously have got some big concerns in terms of the longevity of their businesses, and we're really only the second month in to understand what's going to happen from their revenue lines. So they're looking to us as business partners to be able to support them and to understand their business model and work with them, and that's been our approach. And they want more collaboration and insight in terms of what are we hearing in the marketplace, and trying to answer the big questions: when will we get back to a normal state? They certainly appreciate now that the benefits of using cloud-based technology and engaging through Zoom and so forth. So the way that they all engage now, they accept the fact that they want to be more productive, and so we're going to be more efficient with the way that we engage. Short, sharp meetings, understand exactly what they want, and then come back with a quick response through technology.
Okay. Oh, we had a challenging question from Shelley too. Where are the opportunities? Now, Nat's talked about some opportunities for longevity of the relationship and the half-life, if you like, of what you can get from an event. Where else, looking around, can you see the opportunities? I know I might throw this one to Nat first, but clearly I can see the opportunities in sending out my teenage children as new household cleaners, because they're doing such a good job at home. But
yeah. And look, and I think it's a really interesting question, and this topic of idling capacity, all of a sudden really stopping and thinking, okay, well, what skill sets do we have? What opportunities do we have when we're sitting in this kind of idling state for a while? And I think if you think, for example, of Uber, that began out of an idling capacity recognition where, hire car drivers were dropping off their VIP customers to a meeting in a hotel, sitting outside on their 4-hour call, doing nothing, and then waiting for that person to come back for the pickup. Now, within those 4 hours, all of a sudden there is this notion of, okay, well, hang on, I can do short trips within the city and pick up some more opportunity. Now, Uber's the largest, taxi company in the world, and they don't have any taxis, right? Airbnb as well, there's this idling capacity notion of, you have a spare room or you're away a lot, so rent out your house. And again, Airbnb is the largest accommodation company in the world, and they don't own one piece of property. So I think this idea of, stopping and really thinking about our own idling capacities, whether it's at home or, more importantly at work, obviously, I think has a real interesting notion to it, because I think when we sit and really think about all the skill sets that we have within our businesses and all the opportunities that we can create out of our business, I think that we might see some disruptors coming within our own industries, in this space, because, they talk about technology, and technology is accelerating at a range of knots, right? So how do we use that differently within the meetings and events business? For us is, I think, a real great opportunity.
Hey, that's a challenge for all of us. Less Netflix, more idling and productive. But I do want to ask, I know we're coming close to the end, but I do want to whip round our expert panel one more time and ask one question to each of you. In the midst of all this disruption, what hasn't changed in the way you think about your organisation and your strategic imperatives? And Penny, I'll start with you.
Yes, I mean, for me, it's just a really, really strong reminder about what our core remit is at Tourism Australia, which is all about driving demand and, getting visitation to our country. And for me, that's increased, based on the fact that we're not able to do that right now. It's given me a bit more, passion about making sure that we really do deliver on that in a differentiated way in what will be an even more hyper competitive environment when things go back. So it's absolutely just a reminder of what our core focus is, and deliver on it as well as we possibly can do.
Thanks, Penny. Andrew, what about you? What hasn't changed?
I think it's just reminding both customers and our staff our mission and purpose, and how their role fits in delivering the corporate strategy, and how we engage our customers to make sure that we in their shoes. And at the end of the day, people are people, and we still want to engage, and we still want to be feel worthy, and we still want to be ensured that we're made feel important in our roles, working for the corporate or delivering value for customers.
Thanks, Andrew. And Nat?
Look, for us, our purpose is that we care about creating experiences that engage and inspire. And obviously the way that those experiences are now executed is very, very different, but that purpose absolutely still rings true, because we do still all want to connect, and we have to really kind of reimagine how we bring that purpose to life, and that is through content and the right content development for our customers, and really tying into their business goals, both short, mid and long term, because those are shifting really, really quickly. And probably, most importantly is really about our people, because, we do have quite a number of our team who are currently on stand down. And that for everybody who's left behind in the business, our number one focus every day when we get up and when we do our daily stand up, and, when we talk about what's happening in the business today, all that we're working on is really to ensure that we do come back as strong as we possibly can, so that we can bring all of our people back in the longer term, back from the stand down, because ultimately, we are a service business, we are a people business, and our people are by far our most valued asset, and without our people, our brand really doesn't exist. So, for me, it's really about making sure that that culture and our people are first and foremost, and they're the ones that are driving, those experiences that engage and inspire for our customers.
Yeah, so that focus on people and on purpose, and I guess taking the time to, using this opportunity to think through. There's some really great suggestions for taking forward. The conversation, of course, doesn't end yet. I know that some of you have put forward very quite specific questions about, the reality of virtual meetings and managing and planning virtual meetings going forward. You'll be pleased to know that the CI Events team have put together a whole list of frequently asked questions and their responses on managing virtual meetings and planning virtual meetings. So you'll see the link on your screen now. So please, use that. There's some great information there. Keep sending through those questions on the live feed as well, because we will be really happy. CI will make sure they respond individually to your questions as well. I have to say, just before we say thanks to our guests, I also want to flip to Nat, because this conversation doesn't end right now, because there is another webcast. Episode 4 is coming up, and Nat, give us a very quick sell on this one.
Yes, thanks, Rosie. Our next webinar is in 2 weeks, so on the 30th of April at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we really believe that a company that stands for something is something at CI Events. And, I think now more than ever, the world has come together, and we've realised that we do have to stand united, and we do have to stand together to solve some of these large issues of the world, because this is, yes, people are saying a once in a lifetime, but actually there are so many of these issues that we are faced with every day. And so our next webinar is really about our commitment to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And we'll be having a chat with our global charity partner about what we're doing and our commitment to our SDGs and the impact that we're having in that space. So it'll be a very interesting conversation.
Great. So please sign up for that one. A huge thank you to Penny and Andrew for providing your insights today. That's just been fabulous to hear from you direct. Nat and your team at CI Events, thanks so much for allowing me to be here. Thank you to all of you webcast viewers here today. It's fabulous to have you here and to continue the conversation. So thanks everyone for being here. Keep safe and keep talking to each other. Bye for now.
Thanks.